Welcome to Another Thing. I'm Larry Menti. The campaign for president this year has captivated the country. The election results and the debates in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Super Tuesday have scored record ratings for the cable news networks and have brought money, influence, and attention to all the states I just mentioned. So when is it our turn? New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware are all at the back end of the schedule. Now this year, that may mean something. But most years, it's over before it gets to us. Why can't we move up to the front of the class? Another Thing's Ellen Koloje begins our coverage on that very question. Ellen.
Thank you, Larry. Well, normally during primary season, it's all over but the crying here in Pennsylvania and also New York and New Jersey. And that's because the primaries are held so late, but not this year. This year, those three states could actually crown the winner on both sides.
Great. Excellent. We have a say, finally.
I'm happy that we can have a voice.
Guess what? It's about time we mattered.
Jeff Jubileer is a public relations specialist who's worked on many political campaigns. He says the reason our primaries are so late and usually meaningless boils down to one word:
tradition. And it's unfortunate because the parties control everything. So on the Republican side and the Democrats, I believe, they have said to states, if you move your primary up, we're going to punish you. We're going to take away delegates. So no state, no governor is going to ever push, or no state legislature is going to ever push to move up their primary and lose power.
So these dates probably won't change anytime soon. And for the first time in decades, the primaries here actually mean something. Take a look. New York's primary is April 19th, with 95 delegates up for grabs on the Republican side and a whopping 247 for the Democrats. On April 26th, Pennsylvanians will head to the polls, with 71 delegates at stake for the GOP and 189 for the Democrats. Then on June 7th, the same day Californians head to the polls with hundreds of delegates on the line, New Jersey holds its primary. The Garden State has 51 delegates for Republicans and 126 for Democrats. That means candidates can't avoid these states come this spring.
They're going to need to come here. They're going to need to spend money. They're going to need to put up television advertising. They're going to need to organize volunteers and donors and so forth. And frankly, that's wonderful for our region.
So even if Hillary Clinton is a shoo-in, if Bernie Sanders does really well here in Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, he will push Hillary farther to the left. As for the Republicans, Donald Trump could very well win all three states, and we still could see a brokered convention. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Ellen Koloje.
All right, thank you, Ellen. It has been a crazy campaign year. To talk more about the local primaries, Daniel Bowen is an associate professor of political science at the College of New Jersey. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Larry.
You know, it's interesting because when we first talked about doing this segment, it was because the local primaries were insignificant because they're at the end of the process, which is normally the case.
Right.
They might be extremely significant this time around.
Right, I think they will be. I think in all cases, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey are going to be quite important.
And they're all about the same time. New Jersey is the last one, right?
New Jersey goes on June 7th, and New York and Pennsylvania and Delaware go in April.
And so on the Republican side, this could determine if it's an open convention or if Donald Trump gets enough delegates to take the nomination.
Absolutely. So for New Jersey, for example, right, we could be coming down to really close to that majority of 1237 delegates for Donald Trump coming up into those last campaigns in California and New Jersey. New Jersey's a winner-take-all state. So if he wins New Jersey, that could be the state that puts him over the majority threshold, or it could be the state that keeps him.
It's interesting that he's not, I mean, they're very much aware of the fact that it could be an open convention, because you see people now on the air saying, well, if he's close, he should get it. You know, and you can tell they're Donald Trump surrogates. I'm surprised that he's not putting more money right now into New Jersey, into Pennsylvania, into New York, realizing at the end they're all going to play a huge role.
Well, he gets free media. We all talk about him. The cable news shows talk about him 24 hours a day. He doesn't need to set out his ads because everyone knows who he is and everyone hears about him all the time.
Okay, let's flip to the other side then. There is this movement by both the so-called establishment, who I'm not really even sure who that is, but the so-called establishment of the Republican Party, and absolutely a conservative wing, a very conservative wing of the Republican Party, who want to stop him. If this is his Rubicon, if this is where he has to go to get it, if our area is that, why aren't they spending money here?
That's a great question. I think it's because you have to be strategic, and in order to even play in these states, you have to make sure the bomb doesn't fall out of the support in the states that go in the rest of March and in early April.
So they have to play along the process. They have to go state to state. They can't look ahead, because if they look ahead, they might lose the game early.
Right.
Let's talk about the Democratic side for a second. The Democratic side, it seems like, and excuse me for using the word, but it seems like it's rigged. It seems like this is already in the bag for Hillary Clinton, and it was before the primary process started. So there's so much talk on the Republican side about, well, whoever has the most delegates, they should get it because you have let the people decide. Have the Democrats let the people decide?
That's a really hard question. I think so. I think the presidential nomination process is supposed to be sequential. It's supposed to take time. Front runners who can generate money from donors and endorsements tend to do well in this sort of a process.
But when you get 700 superdelegates, and we should explain what a superdelegate is.
Right. So superdelegates are basically party elites. They're members of Congress, other party elites who have endorsed. Most of them have endorsed Hillary Clinton, and they get a vote at the Democratic convention, just like any other delegate from New Jersey or from California.
But they're not elected.
Right, they're not elected through the primary process. Right.
They're usually state leaders and ward leaders and Democratic leaders within their states, and they get to be superdelegates that aren't bound to the primary. They can come out for whoever they want. And so, and there's well over 700 of them. And the most recent background, the breakdown I saw was that 700 and some were already with Hillary Clinton, and 22 were with Bernie Sanders. Is that fair?
Well, I think if we think about what is the primary process? I mean, it's the party choosing.
Tell the Republicans.
Right. Right. Well, that's a good point. But they're trying to choose a nominee, and they're trying to allow party elites to have a voice. Now, the question is, I think you can't ask the question whether or not that's fair. But I think another question is, would the superdelegates, so if let's say Bernie Sanders gets a groundswell support and the bottom falls out of Hillary Clinton's campaign, do the superdelegates stick with Hillary Clinton? I don't think they will. These are, for the most part, elected officials at various places. I think they would switch their support to Bernie Sanders if he were the true winner. Yeah, I do.
And they think Bernie Sanders, that would mean that they would think Bernie Sanders could be electable in a general election.
Right.
So they'd have the same problem, would they not, that the Republicans have with Donald Trump?
Not quite as bad, but yes, the same general.
It's interesting you said not quite as bad. Why?
I think the Democratic Party would support Bernie Sanders. The whole party would get behind him. Now, he may have trouble appealing to some more moderate independents, and certainly would have trouble appealing to Republicans, but the Democratic Party would support him. And I don't think that's the same situation on the Republican side. I think there are large segments of the Republican Party who would have a problem with supporting Donald Trump for president.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Pleasure.
Daniel Bowen, Associate Professor of Political Science at the College of New Jersey. I talked about that being arcane and driving me crazy. You know what else drives me crazy? These nanny laws that try to influence your behavior as politicians make some money. It's going on in Philadelphia right now, and we'll talk more about that and what happened in New York. You know about that when we come right back.